Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So this time we're going to be having a look at the heroic version of the Bloodmaul Slag Mines instance. Now yeah, I'm going to be talking about the bosses and things like that as we go through this video, but I'll also be talking about just heroics in general and the kind of difficulty that they pose. So first of all, we'll just cover this boss. Now what he does is from time to time he will summon in two different kinds of ads. One of them's a stone ad, so you want to kill it, and the other one's a fire ad. You want to kill it and interrupt its thing. That's basically it for the first phase of this fight, and then the second phase, basically this elemental thing, like, jumps out of the fire, kind of noms him up, and the elemental will summon in another kind of elemental you just want to kill. It's really all quite easy, but what I really want to talk to you about here is the difficulty of heroic dungeons, because that's something that people are very interested in. And what I've got to say is they're actually pretty decently done. I mean, I'm pretty happy with the current difficulty. I could imagine, though, that these will be a little bit easier as, as time goes on. Maybe Blizzard will tune them a bit differently, but currently we're in here with item level 630 gear. That's what they've scaled us to. And the difficulty with that gear actually feels really good. Bosses do take a decent enough time to die, which is certainly an interesting thing. It's a bit different how sometimes these heroics normally go, but yeah, overall damage feels good. Well, okay, actual damage balancing does not feel good, but overall, I mean, just the time that encounters take feels pretty good. They're generally rather hectic, actually, and I really do appreciate that. Now, this fight's really pretty easy in the first phase, as long as people are interrupting things and not being silly. Though in the second phase, I think we did manage to lose a few people. Anyway, so moving on here, we did actually basically have a player death with every single boss, apart from the very last one. So overall, because of that, I've got to say, like, the difficulty's definitely there. It's harder than Wrath, absolutely, and it's definitely easier than Cataclysm. Now, a lot of people think about the Wrath heroics and think, oh, well, they're just as bad as Pandaria. Well, there were a few places in Wrath that could actually hurt you pretty badly, and back when it launched, though they were, for the most part, very easy. Now, I don't really want Burning Crusade style difficulty, and I think the Cataclysm difficulty on something that is using Looking for Dungeon is just a bad idea. Unfortunately, because that's just not going to work with the way the player base is. Sadly, but hey, whatever. I think this is a really good medium, though, because the nice thing is the bosses, they don't, like, have extremely complex mechanics. But what they do have is mechanics that are simple enough, but must be followed. And I think that's a very good way to do just non-raid content, because that way it can be a sort of viable learning experience for people. Oh, one more thing, whenever those little elementals get summoned, I think it does raid-wide damage or something like that. So, yeah, that's the situation there. Anyway, this boss is just about dead. Honestly, it was pretty easy. I think it took us 2 attempts. The first one, we just died during this phase. I think the tank died, and then we all started getting waxed by things. There you go, we just lost the healer. But, hey, we did manage to kill it, so that was nice. Anyway, with him killed, let's move on to the next boss. Now, this guy was crazy. So, his first ability is this yell thingy that you need to interrupt. Now, if you let him get the yell off, he gets a buff. That buff's bad. You just saw him make this big earth pillar and whack it. Well, if you stand in a cone in front of that, there it is, ferocious yell, by the way. If you stand in a cone in front of that, you're going to take, like, 60,000 damage, and you're also going to be stunned. That's a major problem, like a really major problem. The other thing he does is he summons in these ads. Now, these ads, I'm pretty sure, basically put a mortal strike on your tank. So, you don't want that to happen. You need to gather them up and kill them. That's what we try to do, just gathering them up at the middle. There you go. A few of our players, I think, just got hit by the cone thingy. Now, that ferocious yell, it's the sort of thing where if one of them goes off, you'll be okay, but if he starts stacking that up, then you're going to run into a bit of a problem. Now, the other thing he does is this crushing blast thing. Basically, it's just one of those sort of radial things around him. The strange thing is, though, the radius is actually rather large. I mean, there's times when I was heroic leaping out of it and I was still getting hit, so that was certainly a little bit surprising anyway. Now, this was the hardest boss in here, in my opinion. And the next boss, I suppose, could be more annoying for some people, but this is the one I'm pretty sure that we had the most wipes with. Now, I don't know what the raiding experience of anyone else in the group is, but people definitely, seem to know their stuff. So I'd say that because of that, I was playing with decent people. This was on the live stream, by the way. So, in terms of other things to say, well, also, healing's sort of broken at the minute. In a way, there's Wild Slam. Well, I don't know how in sync this will be, but you'll just notice as we move through this, when I'm trying to get out of Wild Slam, I keep on thinking that I have moved enough to get out of it, but I basically ended up being hit by most of them. So that was a bit annoying. Anyway, so the boss is just about dead, which, in my opinion, is a pretty good thing, actually. I just really enjoyed this fight. Alright, so with him dead, let's move on to the third boss. Now, this third boss also brings up a very relevant topic about just how heroic dungeons are being done. So, in the normal mode of this boss, he flings boulders at you, just like what he's doing now. But the boulders just fly backwards, and then they're done. That means that if you're in melee range, honestly, they're not much of a problem. However, they've changed things. In Heroic, they will come back at you, so you need to memorize what order they were cast in, and that way you'll be able to essentially just avoid them all. It's, I suppose, pretty annoying if you're in the middle of the room, you've got a lot of dodging to do, but you definitely have enough time to react to things when you're standing there in melee. Now, one thing about these Heroics is that the mechanics often are just the exact same as the normal modes, but with, you know, really beefed up numbers. And that's fine, it means the mechanics matter, which I suppose, in a way, is like adding new mechanics sometimes. But honestly, yeah, I would like it if there were more mechanics going on with 1 or 2 fights, or just more things. Now, this wasn't as apparent in the Bloodmaul Slag mines for the first... Well, I'd say mainly for the second boss and this guy. The first boss could maybe do with something extra, and the final boss absolutely could do with something extra, because he is supremely dull. Unfortunately, I mean, he's got potential, totally, but pretty dull otherwise. So, the other thing this guy does is burning slag, just, you know, puts a fire on the ground, that's a thing. And if you are a melee, or a caster, and you're in melee range, I think it increases your cast time like 100%, so you definitely don't want to do that. Okay then, so with that guy dead, it's time to move on to the very final boss of this place, and as I said earlier, he's a little bit disappointing. So his main thing is, he does Molten Blast, which you can interrupt, that's fine, but also he just puts these like little void zones on the floor. And that's kind of it. Like, he does summon these slag elementals, but again, they need to double their health, honestly. They are far too easy to deal with at the minute. You don't even have to use any slows or anything like that, you can just nuke them down, there's no chance they'll reach their furnace. So I've got no idea how bad the effects of, you know, is on the fight if they do reach the furnace, which is their location, but whatever, we were able to kill them every time, so I suppose it's pretty irrelevant. Now, one thing that is, I suppose, pretty interesting about this fight is that the room does start to get filled up by, you know, lava on the floor pretty quickly. Now, that does mean that your tank should be proactively, you know, moving the boss around the place. I think we probably could have moved the boss a little bit faster, but still, it was totally doable, and I always felt that I at least had some way to attack the boss. However, this I think was the slightly awkward time. Yeah, there's just 1 or 2 times with the ads where they were spawning inside the fire pits, and I guess that was maybe a little bit problematic. Anyway, so what would I do with this fight? Well, honestly, I don't know. I'd add a new mechanic, frankly, because it's just a dull fight. It's just like, don't stand in the thing and kill the ad and interrupt the thing. That's it. Yawn. You know, it doesn't feel as frantic and as hectic as the other fights, which honestly I think are absolutely worthy of a heroic dungeon, and with their current tuning at this level of gear, are just immensely fun. So, yep, certainly I think overall for the heroics, they're doing a good job. I will bring you a video giving my full opinions on things later on. I just thought that since I'd done the Bloodmaul Slag mines, I would give people a look at what the heroic feels like. And overall, yep, you know, Blizzard are on a good track. I don't think that people are going to be angry in the same way that they were over Cataclysm, and I don't think people are going to be angry at them being too easy, as long as they just keep the current tuning, which seriously is actually pretty good for the majority of people who are interested in heroic dungeons. Anyway, that's it for me. In the comments, let me know what you want out of heroic dungeons. You know, do you want Cataclysm level again? I mean, they're kind of... The Cataclysm level will probably be dealt with by challenge modes, which will of course give you gear once a day. So I'd say that it should be fine on the balance of things. But anyway, yes, do let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.